You fool! Warren is dead.
Part 7. The Basement on the Map. Thursday, 4 days since the strangeness began, and Lowther felt different. It was colder, darker, emptier somehow, as though the town had been lifted away in the night, rearranged behind the scenes, and set back down before dawn. Betsy woke with the same painful tiredness she'd carried all week. Her dreams had slipped away the moment she opened her eyes, but the essence of them remained, dancing shadows at the back of her mind, bloated shapes pressing inwards from her ribs. Steve was downstairs, always the first to rise, radio on low. The familiar smell of burnt toast filled the house. "Morning," he said, as Betsy entered the kitchen, looking up from the frying pan. "Scrambled eggs?" She shook her head. "Just grab some toast, then." "Okay." He pushed a plate towards her, toast cut roughly in half, and watched her pick at it, crusts first at that. "What's going on with you?" he asked. "Just tired, Dad." "Yeah, but you've been just tired all week." She didn't reply. She couldn't, not without saying something she wasn't ready to explain. Steve sighed, ruffled her hair, and said, "Well, you know I'm always here if you need to talk. I know it's hard at the moment. Feels like it's been hard forever." And with that, Betsy's thoughts turned to her mother. She missed her mum, it was only natural. But she didn't remember her the way her dad did. She'd been too small, too young to recall the myriad components that made her mum the woman she was. There were photographs, dozens of them, all faded and rough round the edges, 4 by 3 inches square, muted smiles, frozen cuddles. She looked up at Steve. "I'm sorry, Dad." "What for?" he said, immediately rushing to her side to put an arm round her. "You know, for being a pain." Steve huffed at that. "A pain? When?" That seemed to crack Betsy's porcelain mask. The two of them shared a rare laugh. "Now come on," Steve said. "Get that toast down you." When Betsy emerged from number 22 at something past 8, Buckingham Street met her like a ghost. Curtains that normally twitched were firmly shut. Doors stayed closed. Even the pigeons seemed to hop about more cautiously, as though the rumours of the missing had reached their ears too. Only 44 looked unchanged. Much to her delight, Alan, Alice, Rose and Brandon were gathered by the no ball game sign, stamping frost from their shoes. "You look even worse today," Alan said casually, as though the observation was of some practical use to her. "Thanks," she returned, scowling at him. "I didn't sleep either," Rose muttered between chattering teeth. "I kept thinking I heard scratching." "I heard bins being moved," Brandon whispered. 3 a.m. Alan just stared at him. No playful banter, no slap on the back. "Yeah, well," Alice cut in, "let's just get to school." They set off in a tight cluster, heads down, breath puffing in the cold. When they reached Market Street, 2 police cars were parked outside the laundrette. A group of officers stood by the entrance, arms folded, faces drawn. "What's happened, do you think?" Rose whispered. "Don't look," Alice said. "Just keep walking." But it was impossible not to look. The door of the laundrette sat half open, tape over the handle. Through the gap, Betsy glimpsed a washing machine door hanging ajar, the white drum within streaked with something dark. Her stomach lurched. The kids hurried the last few steps to the school gates, where teachers shepherded children inside with the strange smiles of people pretending everything was all right. But it wasn't. Miss Carter looked exhausted. Her hair was worse than Betsy's, and her cardigan hung unevenly, as though she'd forgotten how to button it. "Coats off, please. Come on, quietly." The class obeyed. Even Alan did as he was told, without so much as a grunt. Miss Carter clasped her hands in front of her. "Before we begin," she said, "Mr. Lewis is going to speak to you. He's going class to class as we speak." Before long, Betsy felt the now familiar sinking sensation. as Mr. Lewis appeared in the doorway. "Morning," he began, omitting the good, his voice tinged with something like reluctance. "I'm afraid I have some difficult news." Every child in the room stiffened. There has been... He searched the ceiling for the word, but found nothing to soften the blow. There has been an incident at the laundrette on Market Street. The police are investigating, and it appears to be connected to the 2 missing children. Rose covered her mouth. Alan stopped breathing altogether. Betsy's hands curled around the edge of her desk. Mr. Lewis went on, "I'm not going to lie to you. This is serious. School is safe. Home is safe. But outdoors we must be very careful. From today, a temporary curfew is being introduced. Everyone is to be indoors before 4 o'clock. You must go straight home after school. Do not stop anywhere. Do not speak to anyone you don't know." He paused, and silence remained heavy in the room. Betsy thought the headmaster's crow's feet looked darker and more carved in than ever. The man was sweating. She pitied him somehow. "If you see anything unusual," he resumed, "anything that makes you uncomfortable, you tell a grown-up. That includes us. We are here for you." He nodded at Miss Carter and withdrew, rather hastily, Betsy thought. Miss Carter tried, with everything she had, to bring some life back into the room. She read a poem about the daily trials of a hedgehog. She told them about a school trip years ago when the headmaster tripped and fell into a duck pond. She went so far as to offer a free period, but nothing seemed to lift the mood. By mid-afternoon, the pale winter sun pushed weakly through the clouds, but it did nothing to brighten the classroom. Betsy watched dust motes drift lazily through the air, listened to the occasional groan of the room's sizable radiator, and felt the knot in her stomach tighten. Then Alice nudged her. "The map," Alice whispered, slipping a hand into a jumper to tap the folded paper hidden there. "We need to look at it later, remember?" Betsy nodded. "But we're not going back to that house," Rose said, overhearing. "No," Betsy agreed. "We're not." Alan leaned over. "We're going to the place on the map." "Alan, no," Alice began, but he cut her off. "It's not an house. It's empty. Nobody lives there. Well, that's what Brand said anyway." Brandon bristled. "I didn't say nobody lived there. I said nobody uses it. It belongs to the Quakers." 4 blank faces met Brandon's. "You know," he went on, keeping his voice down, "they're a religious bunch. They have meeting houses all over the place." "How do you know so much about them?" Rose asked, frowning. "Dunno," he replied. "Think my mum knows one." "Doesn't matter who it belongs to," Alan interrupted. "All that matters is that it's empty. The map said cellar, heavy, open later. The bag lady found something in there, and I want to know what it was." "But when?" Alice hissed. "There's a curfew. And if we break it and our parents find out..." "Who cares?" Alan protested. "That woman is up to something. We saw her notes and those noises under the floorboards yesterday." Brandon shuddered. "And if the police are looking in the wrong place," Alan went on, "then someone has to look in the right place." Betsy listened, chewing her lip. She knew Alan was right about one thing. The maps weren't just scribbles. They were instructions, a guide for navigating Lowther unnoticed. If the rumours were true, the bag lady could appear and disappear at a moment's notice, in and out of ginnels, over and under bridges. The woman knew the shortcuts, the workarounds, buildings out of use, land unadopted. Betsy nodded, more to herself than in agreement with Alan. Going to the meeting house was dangerous. Dangerous in a way yesterday's housebreak had only hinted at. But still, a cellar, some mysterious object too heavy to carry, open later. How could a 9-year-old resist a call like that? It was home time. "Straight home now," Miss Carter reminded them. "Straight home." Betsy had nodded, but her feet carried her with the others to the end of Market Street, away from Buckingham, away from safety. They passed the laundrette, innocently enough. Police tape fluttered in the cold air. 2 officers guarded the entrance, speaking in low, urgent tones. Betsy saw a woman crying into a policeman's jacket, saw the officers' tight mouths, knew only too well what had been found in that dark drum. "Come on," Alan hissed, darting away from the scene. They followed the red-headed boy out of sight of the officers and into a ginnel a few doors down. "Right," Alan said, breath steaming, eyes bright with fear. "Map me." Alice hesitated, then pulled it out. The drawing was rough. A square building, stairs descending. A cylindrical object sketched in the corner, note scrawled in an untidy hand. "This is stupid," Rose said. "Let's go and check it out," Alan announced. "Now?" Brandon squeaked. "In the dark?" "Yeah. No way. It's not too far from here," Alan said reasonably. "Come on, we're just 5 kids walking home." "And what do we do if we actually find something?" Alice demanded, a dark fringe tickling her nose. Alan just shrugged his shoulders. He hadn't thought that far. Betsy spoke up. "We see what's there and tell someone if we have to." "Tell who?" Brandon pleaded. Betsy thought of Miss Carter's tired face, her dad's weary eyes, Mr. Lewis's wringing hands. "Anyone," she repeated. "Anyone who'll listen." Rose wrapped her arms around herself. "I don't like this." "Neither do I," Betsy said. "But if the bag lady's up to something, and those boys, the ones in the laundrette, if there's even a tiny chance that what she found at the meeting house is connected, then we have to try." She surprised herself with the certainty in her voice. It was the most she'd said aloud in weeks. The others stared at her. They didn't know it, but they'd just made her their leader. "All right then," Alan said quietly. "Let's do it."